Well, here we go, round 2.
Yep.
Dylan putting in a 3-bet from the middle blind. And Garrett with the standard call in position. Like a big sizing from Dylan here. This is a board I would be taking a large sizing or checking.
4,500.
Well, he goes with more of a range sizing here, and Garrett has a pretty standard call in position.
You know, the eighth wonder looks like he's got other ideas.
You are correct.
Great. 20,000. I know the look.
And this is for value, right?
Yes. He's going to call it.
He's going to call. He's going to float with just ace high.
Well, it's too early in the hand for Dylan to slow roll Garrett. You all know what I'm talking about.
Ouch.
But he is going to do some stuff that is a little bit extraordinary, I would say.
A little bit extra.
Yeah, that's what the kids love.
It's a mood.
You are so mood right now,
It's
Jonathan.
a whole mood.
Yeah, vibes. Anyway.
Can we name this video Garrett and Dylan being a whole mood for 8 straight minutes? Because that's the ultimate YouTube name.
I think that's a great name. And I think we will do that. And if it's not named that, then that means that we've been kidnapped. Anyway.
Okay.
So, some very strange decisions have been made on this flop. Pre-flop is pretty standard, normal stuff.
Yeah.
Standard-ish, normal stuff. Let's start with the first strange decision, which is Garrett raising top pair, no kicker, which feels like 2003 poker, but we know it's Garrett Adelstein. We know he knows what he's doing. He has reasons for this that are not just, I have top pair, I raise, right? So what could be going on here?
I think there's a few things. Number one, Garrett, by being in position, when he raises here, if he were to get called, as we see Dylan does indeed call, Garrett doesn't have to bet the turn, right? So effectively, it's not that different from calling flop and calling turn, but Garrett picks up some potential fold equity, so he can deny some equity to overcards and things like that. He can charge draws, at least on the flop, if he wants to. If he were to improve on the turn, he can bet again, too, and get full value that way. But I think also this board is more Garrett than it is Dylan, ultimately, because Dylan 3-bet from the big blind, although there's a third blind as well. So that says, like, generally he's going to have not cards that hit this area that often. Of course, sometimes he will. And also, I think this is about knowing your customer. And as we see, since Dylan calls here, that says a lot to me about Garrett's decision to raise.
Yes, and I think that is kind of the key here. I think it's mostly exploit because you said a lot of things that sounded really nice and good, but those are all things that usually Garrett's not doing and other good players are not doing, right?
Correct.
It's like, it's not a common play to make. So this has to be a Dylan-based play. And as we see, as you said, Dylan actually calls with ace-4 of hearts. And if you look at that board, there are not 2 hearts on it. There's 2 diamonds and 1 heart.
Hey, there's a deuce and a 6, though.
Yep, that's true. Those are close to a 4.
The 5 of hearts would be an okay card on the turn. If
it
we're
would be
call.
a wonderful card for Dylan. So Dylan clearly is a guy who is ripe to get exploited by plays like this by Garrett. And I think Garrett's aware of that.
It really seems like it because this can't be a profitable play to call here, right? It just can't be.
No, and it seems like some sort of fancy play syndrome, right? Because I don't even know what to say as far as the analysis of Dylan's call other than he wants to make a play later. I like he thinks he's ahead with ace high. What's the plan? I mean, if you're ahead, he's going to keep betting and you're going to have to improve in order to continue.
That's the problem, especially being out of position.
Yeah.
Like, it's even worse. It's a wet board. Garrett could have a lot of draws. There's a lot of gut shots. There's certainly diamonds. But by the way, that doesn't help us. Like you said, if he's going to go big bet, like we're super deep, it's going to be very expensive. Are we really calling down with ace-4 high? It doesn't seem likely.
It seems like maybe Dylan has it out for Garrett, as evidenced by his previous slow roll that many of you are aware of.
Sure.
And this seems like a Garrett specific, like, I want to get him. Like, I'm going to call because I want to get him. I want to make a fancy play and show him that I had nothing or something like that because I don't know what else is going on.
Is it possible Dylan thinks because he slow rolled Garrett, and it was a big thing in the poker world, that like he thinks Garrett wants to get him, and so he's like, aha, I'm going to call you with ace high, sucker.
I think he should wait for a better hand if that's the case.
Too. There's so many better spots than this.
One of those spots is Nitrogen Sports, and that spot is better than everything because it has the Poker Guys monthly tournament. Use the link in our pinned tweet when you sign up, or you don't get access to that tournament, Jonathan.
It's a Bitcoin-only site. They have sports betting. They have casino games. They got it all, Grant. We'll see you there.
Getting insanely thin value. And look at this turn.
Wow.
This is an action turn.
Check.
Dylan picking up the nut flush draw. Garrett improves to top 2. Garrett putting a thin value raise on this flop. And now he's trying to figure out how to get it all in by the river. $35,000 bet from Garrett.
All in.
And Dylan moves in.
Wow.
Dylan moves in.
This must be the one. Squish.
This is just a snap call for Garrett. He only loses to 7-8.
Yeah, just count the total amount, please.
This must be the one, Squishy.
Garrett just figuring out how much more. There's no way Garrett's folding.
Now the question is...
And I can't wait to see Garrett hold up that one finger as soon as the money goes in.
How will this end?
You know Garrett's going once.
160.
Wow.
162.
Well, boys and girls,
162.
it's what we've been waiting for.
Yes. So 100,
When
120.
Garrett stands up,
40,
you know it's a big hand.
50, 160, 162.9. Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. I have a big hand. Can't even consider doing anything else. You're a monster. Yeah.
That is not music
One.
to Dylan's ears.
One time. Let's go. Call one time. Convert.
I love it.
Yeah.
Immediately, once.
I know when you're ready.
Pretty set. Pretty set.
Garrett giving nothing away.
Oh my God.
I have nothing.
A TKO in the second round. Garrett waiting for him to show.
Oh boy, that's
Well.
nearly $400,000 pot. That's
It's a lot of
huge.
lot of cheese for that grinder. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah, I know what you're saying, man.
Thanks.
All right. So Garrett's decisions on this turn seem pretty easy and straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Like he was probably going to check back, like you kind of outlined on the flop, as part of the plan on a lot of cards that did not improve him. But now that we've turned the 10 of hearts, we can just hope that Dylan has an overpair and try to get as much money in as possible while charging the draws.
Yep.
That
sounds
all
great.
seems great to bet 35K. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Dylan's decision is much more interesting here on the turn. And it really has a lot to do with what Garrett's range is in your mind if you're Dylan, what you should do. Because like we're in a weird spot here. We put ourselves in a weird spot by calling with a nothing hand on the flop.
We really did.
But our major backdoor has started to materialize. We now have the nut flush draw. And we talked at length on our podcast about how there's kind of a sunk cost fallacy that goes along with this play where, well, we made the decision to call on the flop and we got one of the better cards in the deck. How can we do anything but, put more money in, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You could decide to fold because it seems like calling is pretty much out of the question here with the sizing that Garrett chose. It's 35K to win 88K. We need to hit a flush to feel comfortable on the river. That's going to happen about 20% of the time. It's not the right price.
Right. We just can't do this. And being out of position, like if we were in position, at least then Garrett's going to check, give up sometimes, and we can take a shot at it, right? But are we just going to lead all misses? Like, no. Like it's just, and also even if we get there, it's hard to get value.
So it seems like calling is out of the question.
Can't really call.
Right. So it comes down to folding or raising and what size we want to raise to if we do raise.
Right.
And I think it really comes down to Garrett's range, which includes pre-flop and on the flop. And I think in Dylan's seat, it would be really hard to put Garrett on 9-10. You wouldn't expect that to have raised on the flop.
Correct.
He certainly can have diamond draws, which is good. Like if we raise all in like we did, we could definitely fold out the diamond draws, and that's a great result. We want to do that. He could also have 7-8, which is the nuts right now.
That's pretty good. It's pretty
so
good.
Our analysis on the podcast was essentially that it comes down to if you believe Garrett has 7-8 off in his pre-flop calling range or not. And you might think, why would he have 7-8 off in his pre-flop calling range? Well, we've seen him call with Jack-7 suited against Andy in a similar situation, right? And 7-8 off isn't that different than Jack-7 suited as far as hand value.
Yeah, it really isn't. I think it's hard to know if he has it or not. My guess is because they're so deep, and he's Garrett, and he has the button in front of him, he probably has that hand in there. He probably does have all the 7-8s.
If that's the case, I think Dylan should fold. That means that he's more value heavy. He doesn't have enough draws in relation to his value, and he's going to call too frequently to make this profitable. Now, if Garrett only had 7-8 suited for his 7-8s, and then he's down to 7-8 suited in sets, you would expect for value because he wouldn't put him on 10-9. Then we can get enough of his range to fold to make this profitable because sometimes we get there when he calls, right?
Yeah.
But I think if he actually has 7-8 off in his range, we should just fold.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Now, if he doesn't have 7-8 off, he's got a lot less value.
Right.
Because he just has a few sets and the straight,
Yeah.
I think, right? I guess he could have 9-6 suited once in a while. But there's not much there, right?
Yeah. So I guess so I can't blame Dylan for the move. If he's putting Garrett on a range that includes only 7-8 suited and not 7-8 off, then I think it's a good move. So we just actually don't know. We don't know if Garrett would have it or not.
The problem, of course, is you're risking so much money. And you need to be right a lot because you're risking so much to win a reasonable pot at this point. It's a sizable pot, but you're risking a lot more than the pot to do that. So this has to work a lot because when you're called, you only, like you said, have 20% almost always.
Yeah, this all comes back to the call and the flop. This is why we don't put ourselves in spots like this.
Yeah,
because as we see, he does not win.
He does not.
Well, we had certainly speculated, and I'm sure you had too, that the solver would not enjoy some of Dylan's decisions in this hand.
Yes.
And that did come to fruition, but also other things came to fruition, like, fruits and vegetables and stuff.
And ishins.
Ishins, all those things. And Wesley Cannon was the cultivator of these things.
He was the solver.
He used Pio to water the garden of math and game theory, and here we are.
Can I be honest? It's a little disappointing he doesn't use an abacus. Like, just do the work.
We sent out word for an abacus-based solver, but they don't use the internet. So it was difficult because we were trying to yodel to them. And we're not great yodelers, to be frank about it.
I don't really understand it on either side, coming or going.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But we tried because we care about abaci. Anyway, here we go. Let's go back to the flop.
Okay.
Dylan is not supposed to bet this hand. He's actually supposed to check most of his range. He's only betting 20% of his overpairs even, according to Pio, which feels pretty tight as the 3-better, but here we are.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a range advantage board for Garrett, and that's why you want to check most of your range. So he definitely is not supposed to bet this hand, and if he does bet, he is supposed to go bigger, which is something that we certainly wanted him to do as well on this board. So far the solver is not loving what Dylan's doing.
Nope, not yet.
Garrett should mix calling and raising his 9s. We feel like the raise is kind of a peculiar exploit with a 9, and that's typically how we feel when people raise one pair in deep situations.
Correct.
But, the solver is going to want to do stuff like this more frequently than we are. I think that was kind of predictable.
One of the interesting things is the solver thought of the 9s that Garrett would raise, 10-9 is the best hand in his range to raise. I thought that was interesting.
Of any one pair 9, which we speculated a bit on the podcast about why that is.
Sorry, I should say the best 9 in his range.
Right, of course. But so Garrett did it right per the solver.
Shocking. No.
Not shocking is that Dylan Gang has what the solvers like to call a pure fold against this raise, which makes plenty of sense because he has not a good hand.
He's out of position with not a good hand, and Garrett's showing some strength.
Yeah. So Dylan Gang did not crush the Pio exam of the flop.
So far.
Maybe on the turn he did better.
Maybe.
On the turn, Gang doesn't really have many donks. Garrett should always continue betting.
Hell yeah, he should. He made top 2, yo.
Yeah, makes plenty of sense.
Absolutely.
All right, and here's where some strange solver outputs come into play.
Yeah.
Dylan Gang should fold or call with his hand. So instead of fold or raise, which is what we said, you should fold or call with this hand, which feels like you're not getting the right immediate odds to call. I guess the solver's range of Garrett has some hands that you're beating with ace-4 that are give-ups on the river, stuff like that.
Well, maybe part of the problem is that, like, while we're not getting the right price, but because it's backdoor hearts that would come in, maybe the solver figures it can get, if Garrett's got a strong made hand like a set, it can actually get paid off because it's backdoor.
Yeah, well, that might play into why this strange output came in, that gang is supposed to pure fold ace-4 of diamonds, which is, of course, basically the same hand as ace-4 of hearts, except that it's front door instead of back door.
That's what it feels like. Oh, Garrett's going to not pay off nearly as often on diamonds. Right?
Yeah, and that may be the case. That may be true. Garrett has a pure call against the shove, which makes plenty of sense.
Of course he does.
Here's the interesting output, though.
Yeah.
He can mix calling and folding with the sets that are lower than the 9, the 6s and the deuces.
I mean, I would like to talk to someone about that, and meaning like someone in charge.
Freud, like Freud?
No, someone like some of the management at Pio. Like, really? I understand. Okay, I think I understand why they're saying it, which is that like 10-9's a pure call 100% of the time. If you're going to fold big hand, you're folding 6s and deuces because you're not blocking pocket 10s and pocket 9s the way you are with 10-9. But like, we're really folding a set? Really? Ever?
Well, let's give Wesley Cannon some air here because he is the solver and he has his own speculative idea of why.
Great.
This is not solver GTO work. This is him speculating as why the solver output this way. So let's see what Wesley had to say.
Great.
Here. He said, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that 10-9 heavily blocks the 2 sets that gang can have in his range. You'll only call 6s and deuces pre-flop a lot of the time, which consists about half of his value range based on combos. 6s and deuces only beat 10-9 suited, 2 combos, and semi-bluffs, and lose to the 10 combos of 9-9, 10-10, and 7-8 suited. 10x diamond-diamond combos actually block some value too and perform a little better against the semi-bluffs, so this is why they make better calls than the lower sets. That is what Wesley had to say.
Still, I'm amazed that we would fold a hand that strong. And the solver would even want to fold a hand that strong.
I mean,
it feels like the solver never folds a strong hand.
And it's not, of course, saying that you always have to fold these sets, but it would sometimes fold these sets.
Yeah, I just even that is really surprising to me.
Yes,
that's all.
Quite surprising.
So a lot of data came through on the solver there. Lots of disagreement. The solver sometimes always disagrees with Dylan, actually. Sometimes disagrees with us. Likes everything Garrett did, I guess. Let's talk about it in the comments. Let us know what you guys think. Would you want to do all these things? Which side do you fall on ultimately? Do you think this is a good shove? This is my biggest question, really. A good shove by Dylan on the turn? The solver doesn't want him to do it at all. We were at least open to it. What do you think? What do you want to do here? Do you want to fold, call, or raise? You could make a case for any of them.
Yeah, you could, but maybe you should do it on Discord.
Whoa.
I think the flop is more important to talk about. So if you want to talk about the flop with the cool people, come to Discord and talk with me. I'll be there.
If you want to talk about the turn with the dirt people, come on in, baby.
Enjoy that.